Hello, quick Aucademy bite size. So let's see if anyone recognises that I'm online. Oh, one person. Going to do a very, very quick reminder that we're on tonight at 7. And if you're lucky enough to catch this, you might like to answer a question that I have for our Aucademy learners. So who's here? I can see 5 people. Feel free to say hi. 8 people. Okay, there's Sai. So like I say, it's a quick bite-size Aucademy. So a reminder, we're on tonight from 7 p.m. London time. And so tonight we have Tanya Adkins, who is going to talk about the sort of autistic pupil situation in the UK. So what we class or what we call educational or education healthcare plans in the UK. So she's going to explain about the educational needs of autistic pupils and kind of the system as well. She's very, very good at understanding sort of the legality. So if you are a parent to a young autistic person, there will be some useful information from Tanya tonight. So we've got Laurel, Wendy, Sarah, hello, lovely. And apart from explaining and reminding that we're on tonight from 7 p.m, I have got a question. So I've recently been asked, what is it do we feel that newly discovered autistic people, so young people and adults, what is the thing that we tend to be looking for or asking when we first realise we're autistic? So basically, what would be useful? What is the first thing you yourself, if you discovered you're autistic as an adult, what was it you were looking for? What was it you wanted to know? If you were offered a very, very short course, say like a day, an introductory course, what as a newly discovered autistic person do you feel that you need or would need when you first realise you're autistic? Because myself, I'm a bit further along in my discovery journey. And so it's kind of hard, I guess, to remember what it was like to first realise I was autistic and get thrust into that sort of looking into it. So sometimes I forget that we've got potentially new people who have only just started to realise they're autistic. So what kind of information might you want? What is it you go looking for? So any thoughts in the chat box would be really, really useful. So what was it you were searching for? So how did you find us, for instance? Thanks for that, Jessica. That you're not alone. Yep. So yeah, it's really interesting because trying to think back. So when this person asked this question, because they want me to think about what would I do to contribute a very short introductory course for any newly discovered autistic people or families of young autistic people, what is it that those people would actually want? Because I'm quite, like I say, I'm further along in my journey. So I'm here, potentially I'm going to be talking about things like stigma, or I've got my talks on autistic wellbeing and what works. But what is that first thing that people are looking for? So Laurel says that wanting to find out that you're not alone, checking for similarities, awareness of spoons. Yeah, so Asha, that to me again, I would think of that as like a really important first thing that people might need to know about. But I guess when this person was asking me what I could put together and what do I think people are searching for at that very first stage, they don't know about spoons. I didn't know about spoons. So to me, I put together a program to support young autistic people with my friend Annette in 2018. And the reason we put that together was because we'd had to wade through that awful culture of autism, the really negative narrative about who we are. And we kind of didn't want other autistic people to have to do that. Not, you know, we wanted to help people not have to go through the awful culture of autism, and, you know, internalize that and feel really bad about themselves as an autistic person. So we wanted to start off with the knowledge that actually we found useful after we'd really searched for a long time. So I'm just going to have a look through some comments. I can see some comments coming up as well. So Asha, absolutely, spoons are really, really important. But what's that first thing that you might look for? Ellie, a lot of myth busting. So empathy, humour, gender stereotypes. Okay, so is that fair to say that's what you were looking for? You sort of realised you're autistic, or you were diagnosed autistic, and you kind of thought, I want to know the truth about what it means to be autistic. Jodie, recommendations of actually autistic resources. How does being autistic relate to me as an individual? Shared experiences, so maybe smaller groups with open conversations. So like, yeah, smaller groups, maybe almost like a little class, but like an autistic friendly class. Samara, to know that it's okay to be autistic, that it isn't nearly as scary as NTs make it seem. Joe, I realised through my daughter having clear traits and researching, I now know I've always been autistic. I would love to not be judged for saying I identify as autistic, because recently I have been almost sniped at for saying so. I'm really sorry about that. Yeah. I'm hopefully you don't feel that in this space, because we are very depathologized as a platform. We don't agree with considering autistic experience as a medical disorder. So absolutely, if you realise you're autistic by connecting with autistic people, then you are autistic. So you are more than welcome in these spaces with us. So the correct information to be aware of and find in the community. Yeah, so this is why this person was really, because that's what I thought. I thought, what was it I was doing when I started to look through and discover I was autistic? What was I searching for? And I guess it was to understand, well, what even is autism? Because you have those stereotypes. Even I did as a very, very much already immersed in that neurodiversity narrative in relation to mental health. But yeah, I think they're going to try and help me with some more pointers, because I was really struggling with this question, which is why I'm asking you as well. You know, maybe you might think of how you felt right at the start of realising you're autistic. And I know a number of you will be at that point as well. Asha, I had no idea of spoons until Lisa told me about it, and it made so much sense. Yeah. Wanted to learn about different methods of communication. Understanding of burnout. Yeah. See, those things, and again, but you're not looking for those. And this is where the person started to really confuse me, because they're the things we know because we've learnt them now, right? So we already know now the importance of burnout, the importance of masking. We might have learnt about spoons by immersing ourselves in the community, but we weren't looking for that. And I think that's what that person was trying to get me to do, was to think about myself as that really, not knowledgeable autistic person. And that's where I was like getting stuck, because I was trying to remember, what was that like before we knew what burnout was, because burnout has been huge for me to realise, and how to support my well-being. Now knowing that it's burnout a lot of the time. And when I look into my 20s, when I thought I was a depressed or an optimistic depressed person, that's how I would describe myself. Looking back now, I know that there were actually periods where it wasn't depression, it was burnout, and periods where it definitely was depression, and that was a psychological response, and that needed different support. That's been huge for me. But we weren't looking for that. So yeah, I'm going to have to think about this one a bit more, because this person has got a great project coming up in the next sort of 6 months, and so they wanted some support and some input into that. What else have we got here? Find the right sources right at the outset. Yeah. There's massive support groups for autistic kids, not so many for adults who are potentially or diagnosed autistic. Hello, Victoria. I think I haven't seen you in the comment section before, so you're very, very welcome to be here. We do have, Aucademy has our own closed autistic only groups. So we've got our obviously public platform where anybody can come to learn about autistic experience, whether they're autistic or not. But we do have closed autistic only groups. And there's different ones. So we've got an animals group that's a very low energy, low spoons. So it's not, we don't consider it a support program or a support space. It's just for, I don't have energy. I want to look at cute things and post cute things. We've got a social group that actually meets online via Zoom and then one day via Facebook rooms. So there's an Aucademy socials. There's an Aucademy arts group for the artists amongst us. We've now got an Aucademy memes to share any meme that you find that you think is really useful to educate somebody very, very quickly on an autistic topic. You know, a quick post about what is burnout, you know, that kind of thing. What is identity first language and why is it important? So Aucademy memes is for that. So that was Sai's idea, so that you can find it really, really quickly, and then you can post it to other spaces if that's useful. So sometimes you'll go into a group or a space and somebody will be asking, or you want to try and educate someone really, really quickly. So that's what Aucademy memes is for. And we're also going to be starting an info dump group for 13 years plus. So very, very safeguarded group. And that's, as it sounds, it's just you connect over your specialisations, your dedicated interests. And I believe, because Asher's in the comments, Asher is going to be one of our modmins for that as well. Let's have a quick look what else points people have made. Oh, actually, there's loads on here. Okay, great. Let's have a look. Joe, I wish I'd found an easy way to get on with the world. It's been a hell of a journey. What might that mean? What might that look like? Is that skills? Is that, yeah, so what might that mean? An easier way to get on with the world, because really what we want is the world to change. It needs to change. Yeah, shutdowns, burnouts can look like depression. Yeah, exactly. And that was the biggest thing to learn, and that's what I try to teach in a well-being talk that I have. But I think this person wants it literally the introductory stage, like you're just discovering you're autistic, finding your folks. Yeah. And I think part of what they're putting together is also about connecting people, autistic people, in a nice, you know, friendly space, and also via a bit of education as well. Ellie, I think it's hugely important to present them a depathologized narrative framework. Absolutely, always. You will always have that from us here as well. Since finding you all, I found my tribe. Fantastic. Leslie, meeting someone who with lived experience, with the right mindset and understanding, as soon as the consideration is raised. Yeah, to avoid, that's what I think. It's like trying to avoid the really negative side, because it doesn't help anyone. It doesn't help you understand yourself. It doesn't make you feel good about yourself. It can, you know, damage your well-being. And it doesn't really teach you anything. It doesn't teach you the skills that you will get from connecting with the community. Like I say, I learned about burnout, about spoons and spoon management, really important things that I now consider to be kind of basic knowledge that everyone should know. As you, as an autistic person, do you think in pictures? Or do you not? Do you not think in pictures at all? Because that impacts how you experience the world. And that has been a huge thing that I've learned. And I learned that from the community, not from, you know, literature or research or something. I feel I feel I am infiltrating as I've masked for so long. So the real me has been so hidden. I can still act not autistic, if that makes sense. It absolutely makes sense. And yes, it's very difficult with the mask, but being around other autistic people, we can feel like imposters, even though we do belong there. So eventually you will hopefully feel safe to be your authentic self, and be, you know, respected for that. The first thing I would have benefited from knowing would be the different ways one might react to finding out they're autistic. I was diagnosed and then sent out the door to process the news with no support. I thought I would feel relieved, but that wasn't my first reaction. I really struggled with all the different feelings and lack thereof that I went through. Yeah, and I think, I mean, because not everybody will get diagnosed, and diagnosis for Aucademy is not you're autistic regardless of a diagnosis. If you are autistic, you're autistic. But certainly, I guess I was kind of investigating my autistic experience whilst also waiting for the assessment, because obviously assessment can take a lot of time before you can actually have it and get through it. So by the time I actually had my diagnosis, it was kind of anticlimactic because I knew. And actually the diagnosis just gave me more questions. It didn't give me answers. The thing that gave me answers was other autistic people who'd already, learnt and educated themselves on what it actually means. I felt sad, really, as I know that I'm not bipolar and I'm also like PDA. Sorry, hold on, let me read that again. I felt sad, really, as I now know I'm not bipolar and I'm also likely PDA and ADHD. It explains so much about my past. Can't believe no one else knew or even noticed. Brought up by my grandparents, though, they only thought of autism as a really different diagnosis. Yeah. So maybe, working on the feelings of when you've realised you're autistic. You might feel sad. You might be, like I said, when I got diagnosed, it was anticlimactic. It can be validating. It can be all sorts of things, I think. Discovering one is autistic is a journey. It's not something you can take a box off the shelf, and say, this is it. It is discovering and growing as you find out more in baby steps. Yeah. Like I say, but what's that first thing that might be useful to get people on the right journey so that you're not, or the right path, if you like, so you are avoiding some of the less accurate or actually quite damaging narratives. Honestly, I was looking for an educator, someone to guide me through the feelings, emotions I was going through and to try to normalize those feelings. Yeah. Okay, I think there's a little thread here of when you first realizing to try and help people manage the feelings that might go with that. And then obviously we're going to have the difficulty with if you're alexithymic and really struggle to recognize emotions and connect them to the abstract idea of emotions. Right, I'm missing lots now. So I'm not going to go on too much longer. Like I said, this was just a quick bite-sized drop-in, but lots and lots of fantastic comments. So I'll try and get through some more. So please don't post any more just for the minute because I don't want to miss them when I actually end this little bite-sized live. Having information and people to relate to makes the journey easier. Kelly, I found community after my child was diagnosed. I was in so many parent groups and felt immediately shocked, need to assert respect and empathy for autistics because othered and pathologized, especially in mum groups. And that was heartbreaking. Started researching, advocating, realizing it was a battle and I didn't fit into the echo chamber. I related more to autistics than neurotypical parents and wasn't sure why they didn't understand. I also was sure that my experiences were NT because I was clearly, I can't see that last part, so I can't see the full message on my streaming service for some reason. And yes, I dropped out of school. I couldn't cope at all, tried to work, burnout, but you burnt out. How to communicate your needs to other people. Yeah, that's quite a good one. And it's also learning about what those needs are, because some of us, we don't know still, even as adults. That's a work in progress. And then that's about putting your boundaries in with people and saying, this is what I can manage, this is what I can't, this is what support I need. I remembered very clearly feeling that I had no idea where to go or what to do in the period between realisation and diagnosis. Places like the NAS are not for that at all. I know, I wish we could more easily, scoop people over to Aucademy to avoid, like say, the more negative information that you might find online. Bit about self-advocacy. Monica, I was already diagnosed dyslexic and dyspraxic, so I already identified as neurodivergent, and by learning about dyslexia and dyspraxia, I had learned strategies to help me manage those difficulties and differences and have been able to change the way I looked at myself. I started my journey regarding autism when one of my children was on the assessment pathway. I immediately identified with their difficulties, so wanted to get diagnosed so I could show my child they were not damaged or alone. And again, it's interesting that it doesn't show me the full, because I'm on my new streaming service and you're coming over from different platforms. It's not showing me the full comments when they're longer. Sorry about that. So it got cut off at the end. Victoria Clare, I'm glad so glad I tuned in today. I followed Aucademy for a while, but never posted before. Oh, we're so glad. That it's lovely. That's so great that you're here. This one is super helpful. My other profile is sharing, is send caring. I could watch from either. It's a directory to help send families find the info they need when they need it. Lovely. So yeah, and you'll probably be able to complement as well. So as many of you who are very, very knowledgeable in the UK about so that's special education needs, which is a frustrating term because they're not special. They're just educational needs that need to be understood. But if there's more of you that are neurodivergent and understand the process and the system, then that's great, because there's so many families that need support. So if you've got a chance, Victoria, do come to the live tonight with Tanya and pop into the comment section as well. Fibro 2 wasn't short enough. You tried last bite-sized comments only. Yeah, sorry about that. I didn't know it would cut potentially people's comments off if they get a bit long. Where are we? Okay, a couple more. Joe, good afternoon. Good afternoon. My daughter gets very down sometimes. Is this autistic burnout? Potentially. We do have high anxiety as well. So she suffers with high anxiety, no suitable education for 2 years, so doesn't do anything, struggles to go out the door. And I'm seeing this so much, and I'm sure lots of you are as well. If you've got young people and little people that you're caring for, who are really struggling, and it's been an odd few years, and I'm seeing more families are now coming to me for consultancy, and I'm trying to work out what the thread is. I'm trying to work out what is the pattern. Is it just that schools are really, really letting these fantastic autistic children down, or is there something else that if I could find we do like to pattern seek, a number of us as autistic people, not all, but if I can find the pattern, I can work out a potential, not solution necessarily, but at least some tips and skills. So I need to keep working that out and trying to keep thinking. So if anyone's got any ideas, if you're seeing patterns with our young people and why they are potentially struggling and what we might be able to do, please give me some hints as well. I'm going to keep working on that as a question. And without, like Joe, so obviously without knowing enough details, which I won't have time for now, sadly, but it's possible it is burnout. That is very, very possible. And we're more prone to anxiety. At baseline, we have much higher anxiety levels because of sensory. We can't desensitize. That's a myth. You can't desensitize autistic people. You can just traumatize them with more sensory information. So, the sensory world can make us anxious because we're always on alert. The social world can make us anxious because we're constantly misunderstood and get it wrong, in quotation marks, with non-autistic people. And our emotional as well can make us anxious, particularly if we're not too good at connecting our emotions to our bodies and the abstract idea of emotions. Leslie, learning about the commonalities many autistic people share, like alexithymia, interoception. So alexithymia, like I said, difficulty or difference recognizing or articulating emotion. Interoception is the feeling of knowing your own body on the inside. Physical differences like EDS, which is hypermobility. Some of us might have digestion issues and migraines and things. So yeah, commonalities that we might see. How to be diagnosed and approach the services needed without being laughed at. That's very frustrating. You could do what I do, which is I just went, and I was quite emotional that day because I actually found Samantha Craft's unofficial checklist, and I was reading it in the GP waiting room as I went in to ask for a referral for assessment, and I was crying from validation, like feeling validated by reading that checklist, because I was like, this is me, this is amazing, and I feel connected to something. So I went into the GP crying, so I think they took me relatively seriously. But if you've been laughed at, well, apart from that's incredibly unprofessional. That's very frustrating. But certainly, we can talk about how to put together that evidence. I don't think it's always a good idea to be overly prepared to some extent, certainly with GPs and things, because they might sort of that ego they might not really appreciate that. But certainly going in with some of the checklists, the unofficial checklist, the official checklist you can find online. I actually went in with like a 13-page document on why I thought I was autistic. He had no time to read that document, but it was certainly useful when I actually went to the referral, so the referral centre. Asha, I think having an autistic mentor with lived experience to help work through the process would be amazing. There's things like that in the works. There's always things like that in the works. Let's have a look. I think that might be it. Fantastic. Sorry. It wasn't you. It was the stream services fault for not putting the whole comment on. Yeah. I was once described as expansive. I've been through my share of meals. Thank you. I'll try to join tonight. Yeah, that would be lovely if you want to come over and have any suggestions or comments or questions. I think I just was thinking, yeah, when my daughter started middle school, like secondary, is when it all went tits up. Yeah, and I think for many of us, you know, teenage years can also be, basically we're more obviously or observably autistic. We're always autistic, but we're more observably autistic, usually because we're in distress. That's when people observe our autistic behaviours. We're autistic the whole time, but when you're in a distressed state, you're more observably autistic to other people, and that is obviously more likely to occur at instances of big change. So if you've got a young person, or you yourself, you were more likely to be picked up as autistic, or seen to be struggling, or seen to be more observably autistic during those changes, those transitions. So transitions between, you know, nursery in the US, that would be like kindergarten, so nursery, and you know, primary school, secondary school. So any of those changes are usually where you will see a more observably autistic person, because it's very distressing. It's big change. Again, then you've got a number of people who will be picked up as autistic at university, because again, really big change. They're away from home for the first time. Usually, it's all very new. Then changes might happen during marriage or divorce, and you'll again be more observably autistic. And something that's really not looked at enough yet, and there's a number of our, you know, sort of elder autistics, certainly on Twitter, like Cos, and a number of others, who talk about things like being more observably autistic when you reach menopause and things like that. So yeah, that makes sense that you will be more observably autistic and picked up at those points. Okay, so everyone's chatting to each other. I think that might be everything. So thank you so much for popping on. Really interesting that you all even managed to see that I was here. Oh yeah, and somebody over on YouTube was discovered autistic as a result of getting married. Yeah. So do you see what I mean? We're more observably autistic in those big moments of change, or little moments of change. Samara likes the banner on the bottom. It feels like watching CNN. And so, yeah, 28 minutes into a 5-minute live. It's not my fault, Si, if they come up with really great comments and questions that gets us thinking and talking. There you go. Yeah, Sharon, menopause definitely made that person more observably autistic. Having kids, exactly, right? And that is not because you are more autistic, it's because you're distressed. So the checklist for what class or is written up as autistic experience or autism is really a distressed autistic person. So not necessarily what it actually means to be autistic. Lovely. Oh, and we appreciate you too, Kelly. Lovely bunch of sausages, my favourite slimmy word. Okay, that's fantastic. Thank you so much. There's some really good comments there that I might have to go and ponder and see what I can do for this person who's asked for something. So please do tune in tonight. Tanya Adkins on autistic EHCP. So like I say, in the US, it'll be called something else, but basically, you know, care plans, education plans for young autistic people in schools or out of schools if you're home educating, and sort of that's educational needs support. So we're doing that tonight. See you later, lovely people. Oh, sorry. Where can we find that checklist? Okay. I won't disappear just yet. Let me find it. It's very, very good. So like I say, it's unofficial. But it's from an inside out perspective, which is why it kind of helps a number of us. So hopefully that should post. So it's our Aucademy page, or Aucademy website, because we have one, under resources. So if you go down somewhere, it will say unofficial checklist, and you can download it as a document. And there's also the so-called official checklists, but they're very male biased, they're very outsider looking in, and there's some, they're quite problematic for a number of reasons. I don't know if that's gone over to Facebook. It seems to have gone to YouTube, but not necessarily Facebook. Let's see if I can post it to Facebook. I think that's done that. Right, so I'm definitely going now. Okay, see you all later.